Welcome to Happy Hour with Ruth.
And Roxy.
I'm Ruth, and of course, this is Roxy. And we're here on New Year's Eve 2023.
Ready to say goodbye to 2023. And I think most of us are very happy to look forward to the next year.
Yeah. Yeah. Although, I was seeing, because I've seen lots of posts where people are saying, they're done with this year. And and it wasn't a great year, but it wasn't an awful year. And I think for me, I keep comparing it to 2020, right?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
the world was in trouble.
Yeah.
But I think people have had there have been some struggles this year for people.
Yeah, I think there have been too. Now, on the good side, I have a new grandson. So he's 12, 13 days old now. So, that's a pretty awesome thing.
Yeah.
So I'm focusing on that.
No, and I think, and that's what I saw somebody, and I shared it too on social media today. Was there's lots to look back and see that what you haven't done, what you didn't achieve, what happened to you. If you lost somebody, if you lost a job, because lots of people faced that this year. But they said, "But give me three things that were good moments for you," and they don't have to be big life changing things. But what are three things? And I tried to think about it for me because knock on wood, there are some challenges. My dad died last December.
Yeah.
And so there were some challenges around that sort of thing. And certainly, everybody when you get to a certain age has health challenges. But I was thinking so, and for me, I mean, certainly things to look at is this podcast is a highlight, right?
Absolutely.
And we're getting ready, hopefully, to launch January 1st,
which is tomorrow.
Which is a big deal. And I thought about it, and I thought, if you focus in, I learned how to make creme brulee, which doesn't seem like a big thing.
And she really did.
But I was so excited because I love it, and it's not that hard once you do it, right?
Yeah.
Like it was a little thing, and then I think the third one was we've just expanded our social circle here, right?
Yeah.
Which has been really nice because not that we spend a lot of time together, but every once in a while it's nice to have somebody come in with a different opinion because we kind of think alike.
And every now and then, I'm just not that good company, and it's like, oh, okay, we got to shake things up here a little bit.
When we're not good company, we're both not good company at the same time.
Yeah, that's cranky, true.
Or we kind of go into a bit of the kind of down swamp, but we seem to hit it not exactly at the same time, but enough that we can pull the other one out.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So that's actually a good one to be grateful for too, right?
That is, and often we'll both just kind of be quiet at the same time, and it's like I recognize when you need a little space, and when I need a little space, usually I'm just like, but it's good to see that and to be able to kind of dance with that. But I'll tell you what I actually was meaning to do today before we have another topic coming up, which is technology took over my life in a bad way. But what I was planning to do today, and I might still be able to, is the thing that we did as a tradition when our kids were small and growing up. We did something called highlights and hopes. And
cool.
So I would, and I think our youngest was, well, she couldn't print on her own yet. Right. So she was probably about 3, 4, something like that when we started, because she made her E's that looked like it was a stick and then like 5 things coming up the side. It was so adorable. But we would talk about what were highlights of the past year. And we would, sort of go back. Sometimes we would pull out photo albums and look at, what are all the cool things we did this year? And they would write down their individual things and things that we did as a family. And then we would put down hopes. So highlights and milestones.
Right.
So highlights and milestones were the great things that happened and also the significant and not necessarily great.
Right.
But they were somehow significant. So, that's where, if you lost a job and you had to navigate that treacherous sometimes pathway, that's a milestone. It's a thing that you got through, right? And then hopes and aspirations for the next year. Be like, well, these are things that and sometimes it would be like things that we anticipate. So it would be like, oh, my old dog is getting old. I don't know that he's going to make another winter, right? I anticipate the loss. It's obviously not a hope, but it's a thing that you recognize and you put that on paper. Right? You acknowledge it and say, I see this coming. I'm going to honor that. I'm going to honor my feelings about that and, value what I have left, Anyway, so highlights and hopes. And I have a whole file filled with these. Everything from one of the kids wanted me to adopt a baby girl. That was a hope for the future. I'm like, I love that idea. Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, because some just stay hopes, right?
Yep, exactly, and they're all valid. It's, I mean, we had hopes for this podcast a long time before it actually happened. We've been working on this for over a year.
Yeah, I think, and seriously, like we talked about it a lot for over a year, and then for 6 months though, we've been pretty dedicated in doing things, and I think that might be a highlight is we didn't go out before we were ready.
Yeah,
because we did some practice runs where maybe we didn't it wasn't the outcome wasn't bad, it just wasn't quite what we wanted, or wouldn't feel as inclusive or something, because sometimes we go on rants until it's a bit better. You shouldn't deal with our rants yet.
Yeah, probably.
But we had some practice with the camera. We're still learning, but I think it is a highlight that we didn't move forward until we felt comfortable. And again, not that this is perfect, because we have lots to learn, but
it's close to perfect. It's as close to perfect as it's going to get.
Well, you know what? What's the perfectly imperfect? Isn't that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Is exactly, because that's what happy hour is. Happy hour is never perfect.
Nope.
Right? They don't
well,
have
it
your
is
wine,
when
they
you
don't have your beer.
when you bring out a cheese tray, it is pretty darn perfect.
Cheese
I'm telling you,
everything better.
I'm telling you. We're like, oh, just come over for like the pre-dinner thing, that we'll just have a little bite over here, and I come over and the entire island is spread with like a Pinterest beautiful thing.
She's like, nice to me.
Come over. If you say come over to my house for cheese and crackers, you will have cheese and you will have crackers. And that's probably
you'll have 4 different kinds of cheese, and you'll have grapes, and there'll be nuts there. She's telling fibs, man. So okay, so what were your highlights or milestones for 2023?
Oh, some of the highlights. Well, obviously, we took a trip to New Zealand with some good friends of ours this year, and that was a trip that we'd been planning. We had planned to do it in 2020. Yeah, 2020. So obviously that was out, and we had just kept, pushing it off. So we finally got to do that trip. That was a huge highlight. New Zealand is an amazing country. It was a great trip. We completed the report for the commission. That was before New Zealand.
Right. So that was in early February 2023, and that's the Public Order Emergency Commission that they brought us on to edit the report and to produce it, and it was about when things were going on in Ottawa and the Freedom Truckers took over. It was that the Prime Minister called a public order emergency, and one of the checks and balances there for Canadians is that within 10 months after the order is rescinded, they have to do a report. And the report looks to whether the Prime Minister was justified or not. So it's a really important piece of democracy, in my opinion. And it was a great commissioner. We reported to the senior commission lawyers, who were fabulous humans. But it was a tight, hard thing. But it's something I think everybody that worked on it is really proud of, because we got to be a part of a really important piece of democracy in our country.
Yeah, we absolutely did. That's exactly how I feel about it. Like taking those the legalese and turning it into something that the average person.
Hey!
Oh,
sorry, we had a little barky dog.
I moved my foot and he didn't like that.
He just got his nails clipped by Ray. I was going to say Ray and her husband, Roxanne and her husband Ray. So he's a little cranky at this moment.
But turning something that's really difficult to read, because that is how lawyers have to use language.
And it's how lawyers think.
It's how they think, but that's not how the average person thinks. So to be able to, like, I'm so proud of what we did. Oopsie, I touched my mic. Another imperfect moment. But there's something that was like, wow, we helped.
Yep. Like
we helped for the average person who can look this up and then understand what happened.
Yeah, we contributed, and we even had someone who is a critic of government put on social media that the commission did its job because the report was substantial. I always want to say substantive because that's what lawyers use.
Yeah.
That it was good, solid work by the lawyers and the people that wrote the report, because it's an incredibly complicated topic. But the person also said that it had been it had been produced in a way that the average Canadian could understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was our job.
That was our job.
It's a huge point of pride. I think
Yeah.
that's a really
Yeah.
good achievement to say. And we did it in a really short time frame. It almost killed us.
Oh, it was rough.
Yeah.
It was rough. And you guys were still working. I mean, I quit because we were going to New Zealand.
Because you were on a plane.
I was pretty much on a plane. Like, I think I have to shut down my computer and pack now because I got people standing at the door waiting to drive me away. And it was like it was an enormous job. You guys were a little wrecked afterwards. And I was a little wrecked too, but I had a, big flight to recover on. So that was good.
And I mean, but that's part of teamwork, right?
Oh yeah.
Is everybody does everything they can.
Yeah.
And I think that's like to work on something that important, to meet the deadlines, because there is no wiggle room. And we've worked on commissions of inquiry reports before, and usually you get a year and a half to write the report, 2 years to write and edit it. Like, it's a lot of time that you get because it has to be right. Well, this is mandated that it had to be out within 10 months. And to do that important work, to have the lawyers that wrote it get it to us in the time frame. And we also did the French. And so, but I think I think none of us were getting much sleep, and all of us have other things. I mean,
we have lives.
We have lives, and Roxanne writes books, and we have other clients, and she works on those too. And so we had to keep all the balls in there. There's about a 4-month period where nobody saw us or heard from us unless it was, I'm sorry, I can't come to your party.
That's right. I think last year we took Christmas Day off.
Christmas Eve. Well, I took Christmas Day off because between my dad passing away on December 13th, 2022,
right in the middle of all that,
right in the middle of it. So I was editing the report at my dad's bedside while he was sleeping, and he was sleeping a lot then because he was transitioning. But between that and the report and everything else going on, I think Roxanne and I might have had a little bit too much bubbly on Christmas Eve, and on Christmas Day, I really had good intentions to work, and it was like, I'm dying.
I have no memory of that, which means it was all good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's how the year started for us. So this year we'll start off a little softer, hopefully.
Slower. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what else do we do this year? Oh, I finished a book. I got a new book launched. Well, I got one launched and one's
in the
written.
Can, right?
One will be released in February. So that's
pretty big.
Well, yeah, because I haven't written a new book since 2019. I think was my last one. So yeah, so I kind of had to get back into that because I've been doing mostly editing since then, which it's such a different brain thing, and I really like that kind of work. But then, because I also edit fiction, so very often when I'm reading somebody's novel and I'm looking at the arc of the story and thinking about, well, how am I going to help this author achieve what I hear her trying to do in this, but she's not quite getting there because of X, Y, Z, whatever. And then I'm thinking, ooh, I want to do that. And then I start a book and I'm like, why did I say that? This is hard work.
It is hard work. But Roxanne is really good at it. And these books, names, please, so people can know.
The first one that's out is called The Cowboy's Lost Family. That came out in August of 2023. And The Rancher's Lost Bride comes out in February 13, 2024.
So we're going to, because, and it might not be right when it launches, but we are going to put links to all Roxanne's books on Amazon and Goodreads,
the usual
and all
platforms.
Of the places. But I think that's a pretty big accomplishment. I mean, that's
good.
2 books,
yeah,
right? And you're well on your way for the third, right?
Yeah. And then the 4th one I'll try to have written before we go away. So for what did I call them? Highlights and hopes. So for a hopes for 2024 anticipation, we're going on our cruise to Italy and Greece, and I want to have book 4 at least drafted before we go. So
that's good.
That's the goal. We'll see.
That's pretty good. So one of my hopes for 2024 is when we go, and we will certainly, and we'll talk about when I was in Kenya and Paris in a minute. But one of my hopes is we'll be able to do a couple of podcasts there, even if they're mini ones, right? Yep. Even if it's just 5 minutes of, hey, we're in Pompeii, or hey, we're on this food tour, right? Like we're going to try to do little, and they might only be 2 or 3 minute things, but we're going to try to do sort of video and photos and blog posts around the travel, because the other thing is when we travel, everybody's like, where are you going? What did you choose? What did you do? And so because I think we're passionate, we do a bunch of research. People are interested in what we're doing.
We
so
meaning
we want to
mostly
share that.
her.
No, that's not true. That's not true. I'm just a little bit more experienced at it.
You guys have done a lot more travel.
Yeah.
We haven't done, we had kids, they traveled.
Yeah.
And so we're just now kind of getting into the bug, but you guys have done so, and your husband used to be a travel agent.
Yeah.
So you've got great experience and knowledge.
Well, but the other thing is, it's really fun with Roxanne and her husband Ray, is because it's like, here's a couple of choices of tours, and then we have a conversation about what works for everybody, and it's a really seamless kind of thing. And it's not that we all have the same necessary interests, but we're all welcoming about everybody being independent, but we're also like, oh, well, that's not necessarily something that I would have chosen, but what could I learn? What could I find out here? What would be interesting? And so we're all really open to experiencing things from the other's perspective, right? Which is a nice way to travel, because you can, I mean, if it was me, I would just go to restaurants and food tours. And you have to see other things, right? Because it opens you can't, it's a little bit like, often, you know, you go to a restaurant and when I say to somebody, what are you ordering? It's not just casual. For me, it's like, what don't I know to order? Right? Like, what could I learn here? How could I expand my horizons? Right?
And this is a different approach to eating, I would say, because some people eat because their macros say that they need to have this much protein and this much carbohydrate and whatever. I don't know anything about that. And so they eat because their exercise is going to be this much and this is what they're going to do, and then they're off to something else. And it's simply fuel. And I admire that, because that is what food is. But food is also culture and social traditions, and a way to show love, and a way to welcome people, and a way to use natural resources and what's around, and being creative, right? Creativity.
And it's a human experience. Like if you and I think but that's exactly is, you know, if you can go somewhere and, you know, and have the food and you know, like when we were in Kenya, one of the places had this beautiful garden, and unfortunately we didn't get to go see the garden, because I really wanted to. But the entire lodge, which only has like 8 rooms, but at that point you could have 20 people there. It's all from this garden, right? They hardly bring anything in. They grow it.
Wow.
Right? And so, but that's just it. So you get to talk to maybe the chef or the cook or the server, who might, like, especially when you go to little mom and pops, like, it doesn't have to be these high-end Michelin starred ones, but you go to these and you ask the server even, and they're really proud of that, right?
So one of my best memories of a trip, we took a trip to, what's the one that's not Napa Valley, but it's beside it in California, Sonoma.
Oh, Sonoma, yeah.
So we went and just did some wine. My husband was on a conference, and so we popped a few winery visits in there. And at one of the places we stayed, they had listed on there, what did they call it? Kitchen garden tour, I think, something like that.
That's cool.
And I said, my husband was going to have a nap, and I said, I'm going to go down and find out who's doing this tour. And so I walked down, and the chef from the restaurant is kind of standing there looking around. There's nobody else there. And I'm like, so is there a tour happening somewhere? And he's like, well, there is, but there's nobody here. And I said, well, I'm interested. And he said, oh, if you're interested, well, let's go. So it was just me and the chef of this restaurant. And they had this huge garden at the back behind the restaurant where all their herbs and I really don't remember a lot about it. I like to garden, but you know, I had also a glass of wine then too. So it was more of an experience than it was like learning things, right? But he told me about where they had planted all their stuff, like all of the herbs, how old they were. Oh, this one is this way because it grows like this. And we've got this one planted here.
That's cool.
Because of whatever. And then he showed me their artichoke plant. And we have artichoke here. You know that, right?
No.
We have artichoke here on our grounds. Yeah, we do.
We need to.
I told him, I said, I've never had artichoke. Like, I've had jarred artichokes in artichoke dip. And he said, you've never had artichoke? And I said, well, other than that, no. And he said, all right, so tonight, are you eating here at the restaurant tonight? And I said, yeah. So he said, all right, just tell them your name when you sit down, and you're gonna eat artichoke tonight.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And so he came out, and he had these 2 like actual artichoke heads, bulbs, whatever they're called. And he told, you know, like you peel them off and you dip them.
They're good,
and then you kind of bite the meat off with your teeth. Oh, delicious. And there you go. Like so I
That's
learned
awesome.
about how this restaurant works, the passion this guy's got for his food. It was just really fun. And I love those kind of things. Like that's a little tiny highlight. That one of the highlights when we were in China a couple of years ago was absolutely spontaneous. Again, the same thing. We were in a little boutique hotel, and they offered dumpling making classes
Oh,
that
that's
night.
cool.
And again, my husband had a nap. This is a theme here. He's
He
also
likes
not
naps.
he's not a foodie. He's not into it, but my the two friends we were with and I were interested in that. So we went down there, and they happened to have a bunch of other international students who were all doing, we talked to them and we learned they're all doing their masters in global something or other, and that's where they ended up, in that hotel. So we're talking to them. She's bringing out the little bowls of pork, and here's spices, and here's your little, like, we actually made the wrappers and everything.
That's
we
cool.
rolled them out.
That's really
and
cool.
Then she took them all. We couldn't, like ours, she could easily tell which ones were ours because they were all very clumsily put together. But then she cooked them all.
Those, right?
Yeah. And then we ate them. And again, I mean, we saw the Great Wall of China. We saw a bunch of other stuff. But that little dumpling class, one of the highlights of the trip. Right.
And I think that's just it. And that's where you balance sort of the everybody's interest, because it brings things along. Like we're going in Rome, we're going to go in the catacombs. It's something I'd be interested in, but I might not. I might go, I'm going to take a cooking class, except everybody else was really interested. So it's like, I'm going.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that's part of when you find good travel people, because even good friends aren't necessarily good travel companions. Right. And finding that kind of thing. But I think that's like, and that's sort of a highlight of figuring out that we could travel together, right? It's a really good thing, because wouldn't it be sad for the blog if we couldn't travel together?
It'd be like, yep, it's me again, because Ruth is gone, so you're stuck with me. So
or it's one of us out there, and it's like, hi, I'm out here by myself, and there's no banter, right? But
welcome to the dark side. It's just
but I think
me again.
It's part of it. Hey, speaking of food, what are we drinking? We need to tell them.
Oh yes, okay. So right now we are drinking Crown and Thieves
Christmas wine.
Scoundrels Punch, it's called. And it says, I'll read the back. To some, the word scoundrel carries with it a negative connotation. A moniker usually reserved blah, 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 blah. It turns out this is, here it says, we count ourselves among the erstwhile group of natty lads, the hawkers, the hucksters, the grape row grangers, the cellar rats, the winemakers, and crush pad captains. So, long story short, I don't know what's in this wine,
but it's good.
But it's good.
And Crown and Thieves in British Columbia, and you can go on there, and I think what it's Jason something, right?
Jason Parks.
Customs. So Google Jason Parks Customs, because you'll get all his wineries and brewery and stuff. Exceptional beverages.
Their wines are great.
They're really good.
I don't recall one that I've had from them that I didn't like. I've liked all of them.
Now we're going tonight to locally, we have a chef that lives here, and tonight he's doing this beautiful dinner for 40 people, which is really nice. And we're going tonight, and we have a Riesling to take with us. So we'll have to try that. Yeah, so we'll have to try that, because I'm not a big Riesling person, but I want to try it, because every time, and all of their wines are good.
Yeah.
Right, it's very good. Okay, so do you have a word for 2024?
A word?
Yes.
Not off the top of my head, but I bet you do.
I do, and I do one every year, and it's funny because I saw on social media today, my sister put up, because she does a list of plans or hopes, or things, and she's got them going back to, like, I don't know, 1989 or something crazy, right?
Wow.
And she keeps them, like you keep your file. Yeah. I don't mind just go out, but this year mine is preparation.
Ooh, okay.
And so last year's was simple. I achieved it in some areas, but preparation for me is, preparation for thinking about the next chapters of my life, because I'm not giving up work yet, but I'm balancing it better. I'm working to balance it better.
And you, I think maybe until, like, when we met, my husband was just kind of on the cusp of retiring. And I was kind of on the cusp of ramping up a little bit, but not sure where I was going. And you are very much like, I'm working till I'm dead, man.
Yeah, for sure I'm working.
Yeah, but then we started spending
something.
in some form or another.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then we started talking about it and talking about the stress levels involved, and I see your stress, right? And I think that's when you started thinking, yeah, there is life after the high octane everything
Yes.
all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
No, and Paul and I were talking about it, and you and Ray have been a really good influence because I'm a workhorse,
Yeah.
And so is Paul, although he would happily leave everything in golf. But
now that he's gone to next door neighbor
who golfs with him,
do that all day.
But the other side is I will always have something on the go.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a part of me, like I think I've got 5 years in me for full force, because it took us 20 years to build our company to here, and now we're in a really good position. We have a great reputation. We get really good clients, but I'm also not willing to deal with the bullshit. We just let a client go that
congratulations.
That when we first started, they were really good people, and they are public sector, so I'm not going to name them, but they were really great people. Like, we will be friends with these, and then one of the fellows retired, and he was like, honestly, he was like having a really great uncle as your boss, right? He was lovely, but they weren't ready for us when they hired us, so we kind of went along for a year, and we kind of went along for another year with fits and starts and all kinds of stuff, and then he retired, and that for me took away a bit of the heart. And then the next guy, said he was going to retire, that was of that original group, and the other people are nice enough, but we're back to square one again.
Yeah.
And so our skills aren't being used well enough, and I have learned from you and Ray a lot, is that you got to make room for better things, right? Is you have to move that, and our friend Della is like that.
Della's really good about that.
But you have to do that kind of thing. But I mean, I think part of my hope is that as we move forward to the 5 years, where you take a really good look at it, because I really like the work we're doing now. We do lots of government reports, and we do commissions, and we have a big client that's in biotech, who are the most amazing humans, and who Roxanne's going to do some more extra working with, that coming in 2024.
Fear and trembling, but yes.
It'll be great. But my hope is the podcast gets enough response that this becomes a bigger thing in our lives, and that I'm not we don't need to make a huge amount of money on it, but I'm hoping that we make enough that we can keep this going, and we can deliver what you want from it, but in a way that doesn't make it feel like we're just merchandising to you.
No,
right? Because we're doing it anyway, whether 3 people show up or 5,000.
That's the thing, and so for us to have an audience that is living the same sort of stage of life that we are, or looking towards that life, or
and has the same values, right? And wants to talk about the same things, or maybe is feeling a little adrift.
Yeah, and possibly alone.
Yeah,
right? Because we have had these conversations in our own minds for 20 years or whatever, and sometimes you find other people. I have other wonderful people I can talk to about things, but I think until we started our happy hours, we didn't have the same conversations the same way, and certainly not with the same regularity. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Right? So that's why we're thinking, like, there's got to be people like you out there who think, wow, I also want to talk about what the next 5 years of my life is going to look like, or how I'm reacting to this particular thing, or what value I place on this, or what might change, what things can I adjust.
Yeah. And we think, and we do think, once we get this up and running and we learn a bit more about the technology, that at some point, maybe we'll do some live ones. We'll do Facebook Live podcasts where they'll still get recorded and everything, but you'll be able to talk to us live, right?
Yeah.
Or you can send in notes to us and say, hey, you were talking about this, and so we'll have, then the next podcast will be like, hey, somebody told us this about this, and we can follow through on that. Because we want to make it a two-way street. To be fair, we're figuring that out. Right?
Oh yeah.
And we will get there, but we do want to hear from you. And tomorrow I am going to set up an email that I'll put on the blog that I've said now in 3 podcasts. But we will. But I think that's just it. Like, it's not that we didn't each have friends that you could talk to, but it's like you talk to somebody at 6 months, and then you talk to them in 6 months later. And so much has happened in between. But when you have this, then it's like, what about that? What'd you do? How'd it go?
Exactly. And I mean, we walk the dogs twice a day every day, and then once a week we do this.
Well, just for the record, I walk them 3 times a
Well,
day, but it's way
I'm not
too
always
early
there.
in her world.
Oh yeah,
Man.
no, I don't see. There's no world at 6 a.m. as far as I'm concerned. And my husband will do a couple more walks than I do, but so we chat then, or we don't chat if it's one of those days.
If we have
Yeah.
Cranky Pants, she's very good. It's just like we kind of walk quietly, and she talks about leaves and flowers, and she's you're very sensitive to others.
I don't know.
To others, but like you don't. What's the right way to say it? Is lots of people, if I said I have cranky pants, they'd be like, "You have a good life, get out of it, blah blah blah," right? And it's like what you do is like, yeah, I get that. Hey, look at that pretty rock, right? And it's a distraction from the thing, because other times we come out of the gate and it's like, I gotta talk to you about this.
Exactly. Right? You won't believe what happened. Yeah. And but there's no point in saying either. Like if I said that to you, you have a good life, don't be cranky pants, we wouldn't be friends. Because I would be a person that I don't understand, because I get the mood thing, right? Yeah. Like we all go through stuff, and the last thing you want to hear when you're having, I had a freak out about something earlier today, and you know what? 20 years of therapy, I'm telling you, works like a hot
Was this about your technology? Darn. Was there a different
Yes.
freak out?
No, there's that one. But my husband came in, and this is why we pay our therapist.
Therapy is good.
He comes in, and I looked, and he had just woken up from a nap, and he walked in and he said, I feel so good. And he was like about to give me a noogie or something. And I looked at him and I'm like, just don't even start. And he went, his eyes got all big, and he turned to walk out. And I said, no, don't walk out. I need to tell you this. I'm really upset about this. And he listened, and he asked me a few questions. And then I said, thank you. That's all I need. And he walked, but he didn't say, well, why are you so upset? Well, you lost those files. Have you checked here? You should have done this. He didn't do that. And that's the thing. Like if I said to you, what are you talking about? You're in a bad mood. You just got back from Kenya. Yeah. Be like, and we're done. No more podcast. But that's also not how.
That's not who you are.
No, it's not who I am. But also, if I were to say, well, why? What's wrong? What's wrong with? Tell me everything. I want to know right now. Sometimes you can't articulate what it is.
Sometimes you have to wallow in it until you can. But I also think, and I don't necessarily know if it's an introvert thing, but I also think that there are times. So one of the things that I've worked hard to do with, especially in work-wise, because I'm a fixer, right?
Yeah.
And so I watch my words. I say, have you thought about this? Have you done this? And sometimes I say to people, do you want to vent? Or are you looking for solutions? Because sometimes you just need to vent. Yeah. And I just read something the other day, is a young person asked their mom they were baking something, and they asked their mom for help. And what the mom said was, do you want me to take the lead and direct, or do you want to direct me? And it was like, wow, that's interesting.
Oh, that's lovely.
Right? Which is, and it made me think, well, that's a little bit like, do you want to vent, or do you want to brainstorm solutions, right? Yeah. Like, it's like, because sometimes you just need to be pissed off and say stuff, right? Yeah. And then it goes away, and you're going to either figure it out or you're going to let it go. Yeah. Right. Because there have been times when especially like, when we first started, we were new in the company, we would get some clients that were kind of like that what they wanted was ridiculous. And so when you would say it to somebody, it's like, well, just fire them. And it's like, yeah, we don't have enough clients to fire.
Right. Exactly.
Right? Like we can't do that. Right. Yeah. I have to find a way through this. And the other thing is, I'm a fixer. My first reaction is, there's a solution. Mm-hmm. We can find a solution. Now, both parties or all parties have to want to find a solution. Yeah. Not everybody does. But the other side of that is when people are like, well, just get rid of them. And it's like, yeah, that's not realistic.
And also, you're not hearing what I'm saying. Yeah. This is somebody that I need to deal with. Yeah. And I can't stop dealing with them. So this is what I'm doing. So don't tell me to just stop. Yeah, because because
that's not a solution.
No,
right?
It's not a solution.
That's an easy way out, and it's like, and it's honestly like the client that we agonized over it, because it's people that clearly need comms help and stuff, but we agonized over it. But it got to the point where it's like, they're not using us. We don't get to be our best selves with them.
Yeah.
And we don't get to be our best professional selves.
Mm-hmm.
And we've come back and said, hey, this is actually the way it works. Here's what we could do. Here's the things. And we tried really hard to keep it. And then it got to the point where it was like, every time an email came in from them, I'd cringe now.
Ooh,
And the flip side is there was always pushback on what we put forward, and it was like, you shouldn't be paying us if you're not going to use our expertise.
Exactly.
Because nobody wins then.
Clearly, there's something's not working right. The fit's wrong if that's the case.
And that's just it. And I mean, and often, you know, and I mean, I love our government clients, but often in public sector, you hit one where it's like, oh, you have very different values than us. And it doesn't mean their values are wrong, but their approaches, lots of parts of different governments, and when I'm talking local and provincial and federal, lots of them deal with communications. Like some are like, yeah, we don't share anything until they come and ask us. And it's like 2023 and 2024, like you should be sharing more. The Pope is on social media. The Buckingham Palace, the Queen is on social media.
Oh,
the CIA is on social media. CSIS here is on social media. The FBI is on social media. RCMP. It's like if they're all on social media, these are privacy crazy people.
Yeah.
Right. If they're on social media, you can be on social media. Right. Because but I think it does go to it where it was like, it's like there are things that happen in your life that sometimes you just want to vent about. And there are things sometimes where it's like, oh my goodness, like after we finish this, Roxanne's going to tell me what necklace to wear. You know what I mean? I'm asking for advice. And I think that's it. And I think life would be easier if we all said, I need to vent, I need advice, or I just need support. I don't care if you think I'm wrong, just tell me. Because sometimes that's all you need, right?
And identifying what you need. So
that's what you did with Ray.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I tell you, like, honestly, we have a very unusual relationship with our marriage counselor because we've been married for 35 plus years, I'm going to say. I can't do math, but
they've been married for a really long time.
A really long time. And we started, you know, during a crisis when we had, you know, 3 kids and no money and a lot of stuff. And that was a really good thing. And so we started with him, we talked to him, there was lots of tears, lots of stuff, whatever. But we formed a relationship that we were both comfortable with, you know, because I had done therapy before that, but my husband never had. So we went, you know, got through that crisis, you know, and then we would periodically go back to him. And then once we moved here, to Creekside, we had another something or other, or maybe it was during COVID, I can't remember. But we had touched base with him regularly. And then we started again. And at that point, we said, you know what? We're going to have separate sessions. You do your thing. And it was COVID, so we were doing Zoom meetings, right? So then it became less about getting our marriage through the whatever rough part we're in right now to how can we become our best selves. And so we do individual sessions now. But throughout all of that, one of the best things someone ever said to me, and this was a different therapist way early, was knowing what you want is way more important than getting what you want.
That's
identifying what you want. So that little thing about what do I need right now? Do I need because and so then one of the things that this therapist regularly tells me is, can you just sit with that feeling for a while and feel it? Let yourself feel it. Maybe write down what you're feeling, identify those thoughts, because we, and this is, I mean, we do this with our children, those of us that have kids, we did this when they were little, like use your words, you know, say what you're feeling. And you can't say what you're feeling until you know what you're feeling. And you can't know what you're feeling until you've actually felt it. And we're so eager to not feel it because it feels terrible to feel bad. It feels terrible. And we want to escape it. We want to, you know, just watch TV or get on another game or whatever. But if you can sit and feel something for a while until
it's important.
Yeah, it really sucks, but it is important.
It really so this is sort of a switch from, because I'm trying to do show notes. We're trying to do show notes, but
she's the one writing. I'm not doing anything.
I'm just taking notes. But I think this is really important because I've done therapy on and off my entire life, and I feel like I'm in a stage where it might be time to go back more regularly, right? And Paul, my husband, does therapy, and And I think it's important to destigmatize it
Yeah.
because it is
Yeah.
so stinking important. And sometimes, like, that's just it. Like, sometimes there are times when it's like, and I call it the swamp. And I felt like I was going in there, and the holidays do it. And I felt
Yeah.
like I was going in
Yeah.
there yesterday. I was a bit run down. I wasn't feeling great, but I could feel the freaking. I have this committee in my head, mostly that are critical, but a therapist taught me that it's so the committee is actually trying to protect you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They're there because they don't want you to get hurt
Yeah.
because it's you, right? I mean, I know
Yeah.
there's not other people in my mind. It's all
Yeah.
me. But the really important thing was like, so I keep relieving them of their duty, right? Like, and I have one mean one that I just sent to the beach, right? I've sent her off to drink margaritas because she doesn't get to talk anymore.
Ooh.
Right? But last night, because of therapy, I was able to sort of go, okay, I'll come. And so part of it is the death of my dad, and that there's stuff in grief. My dad and I had a complicated relationship, and one of the things is he's gone, so we're never going to have an easy relationship. And the fact is, we're never going to have an easy relationship. He and I butted heads from, I don't know, the time I was like 12 years old, right?
Yeah.
But it was like, okay, let's pay attention to that for a minute. And then the other part was, it's like we didn't do anything for Christmas because we were away, and it was like, you know what, I'm kind of sad we didn't put stuff up. Although I'm not sad today because you got to take it down.
Yep, that's tomorrow's job.
Right? But a therapist taught me, you know what? It's okay to. My mom used to call it wallowing in it, and she would say you get to wallow in it for 24 hours.
Oh, I love that.
And then you have to decide, is it a problem you can live with, or is it something you have to change? And we have a little bit of a, it's not a rule, it's a guideline. We get to complain about something or someone 3 times, and then you either have to come up with a solution, or you have to decide that you're going to do that. I'm going to accept this as it is, right? And because the other thing is, so
to Ruth's credit, she never comes at me and says, all right, you complained about that 45 times. No, what are you going to do now?
But that's also my choice, right? Because other people take longer. You know what I mean?
But I like that. Like, that's really smart.
I have to give myself a timeline, or else it's just the nature of my probably OCD. I haven't been really diagnosed, but things run in the back, right? I have this player running. The committee talks in the back. And if I don't say, okay, we're done with this, and I visualize putting it away and getting rid of it, it will come up in the most, like, I'll be cooking something and it's like, yeah, I'm going to kill Paul, my husband, and it's because of this. And it's like, so.
And Paul's just upstairs, like watching golf or whatever. Yeah. And he'll be like, I'm imagining this because this happens in my house too. What happened? What happened?
Why are you mad at me?
Was I gone? Like, did I go somewhere?
But you have to say, okay, so he has no idea I've been simmering on this, so that's unfair.
Yeah.
Right. And you have to go through all these things of what about the other person, especially when you love and respect and care for the other person, right? It's different. Some jerkwad in a store says something crappy to you. You know what? I have to learn to let that go because they don't matter. But the people that matter, I have to learn, either I have to say, hey, this is how I feel about this, and not you made me feel this way, because it's how I have responsibility, right? But therapy teaches you stuff. But last night, I went to bed at 5:30. Because
in the evening, I was tired, like, you need to specify here.
In the evening, yeah. There's no going to bed at 5:30. But I went to bed at 5:30, and then around 1 o'clock, I woke up and I really couldn't sleep, so I got up and I walked
6:30, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30. Man. That was 8 hours.
So no wonder I was awake.
Okay.
But then I got up and I wandered around and I dozed off and I did stuff, and then I got up really early. But then it was like, in between the waking, I had a conversation where I was like, so is this just habit? Because the holiday season, my mom died when I was young, and the holiday season was a big thing for her. And it was like, so what's this about, Ruth? And I had a conversation with myself. And then all of a sudden, because I had a conversation with myself, I woke up and I was like, I'm good. So then I made enchiladas and sloppy joes, and I've got soup on, and I made banana bread.
And we're going out for dinner tonight. When are you going to eat all this food?
Freeze all of it, because now I have how, because like you make sloppy joes and you use chicken, and then you put in a bunch of mushrooms, you put in a bunch of peppers, so it's not like it's a healthier thing. Because even though I'm losing weight and I'm not sure why.
That scares me.
The house is not.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what it is? It's because I'm paying more attention to certain things, right?
Yeah.
But somebody else in the house isn't, so I'm trying to do healthier things.
Oh yes.
But
yes.
Okay.
The challenge.
So because I'm doing our show notes, but so we're gonna therapy is good. And if anybody wants to reach out to us and ask us about therapy,
Mm-hmm.
please do,
Mm-hmm.
because it I can say without fail it saved my life. Right?
I would say that too. It certainly saved my marriage.
Yeah.
Yep. And it has brought me to a place of growth that I would
Right?
never have guessed possible.
Right.
I would never have guessed. And I'm sorry, but that may not sound like it's saying very much.
No, but it's huge. It's
but
huge.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I've been
It makes life easier, more rewarding, and it doesn't mean you don't have to do the hard work. Like sometimes it's freaking hard work,
oh
right?
yeah,
But it lets you acknowledge, like it's okay to acknowledge that you're angry.
yeah.
I mean, my family was English and Scottish and Irish, and so I guess the Irish people yelled sometimes, but I don't know. But my British family, nobody ever raised their voice or talked about stuff. We just stuffed it under the rug.
Yep.
And as a communications person, that's not what I do. And that's what therapy taught me was it's okay to say in the right circumstances, because I didn't always use the right circumstances, but in the right circumstances, it's okay to say, hey, this is sitting on me. Can we talk about it?
I
Right?
find that so interesting. You came from a family that doesn't talk and you're in communications.
Oh no, it's ridiculous.
I come from a family that doesn't talk at all. And I'm a writer and an editor. My sister's a writer. My brother's an editor. We're all in words and communication.
Isn't that interesting?
And there's something about, I think it's a funny thing.
Do you think it's a reaction?
I think that, so for a lot of the things that I can complain about or say that I have issues with, I will say my parents taught all of us to read. There was a huge value on reading.
Right.
So literacy was a huge value. So we all learned to read early and to value story.
Right.
And so that doesn't necessarily translate into talking on a person-to-person basis, but we certainly learned that this is an avenue that we can explore to learn more about ourselves and our life. And we've all run with it. And it does, I mean, my interpersonal skills are definitely better than they were when I was younger. But in some arenas, I'm still a 12-year-old who's terrified and can't say anything. So
but
it's funny
I think
that
we all are.
Oh, probably.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I think all of us have these because every time I tell somebody I'm an introvert, they're like, "What?" And it's like, seriously, you understand?
Oh, I totally get
it. Because we and it's not performing because you really are out in the moment. But then you've had enough and you're done.
Yeah.
Right. And I think having showing a child it's important to read.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then my mom was an antique person, right? She used to go to like thrift stores and get all before it went crazy and before people realized how much was in there, and all the antique dealers would pay her lots of money for stuff, but she would take an old teddy bear that was all worn out and she'd say, tell me about the person who owned this. Right. So wow. She helped me do all of that.
Yeah.
Except we never really talked about the things and you know what I mean? Like, and at the dinner table, we'd certainly have stories about, oh, I did this in school and I did that. But it was never like, I feel I don't belong. And honestly, I don't know for those of us who write and who have big imaginations, I don't know how a parent would react to that anyway. Like, because honestly, sitting there sometimes I can think like, I used to feel like I was an alien because like I accelerated in reading. So I was reading like 5 grades ahead, which makes you weird in your class, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, I still don't know my times tables because I didn't care. Right. And so I could figure it out enough to pass the test, but it was like, I don't care about that. I should have cared about that, just saying. But there's a part of it where it's like, so if you have a child with big feelings, then I can see as a parent how that might be hard because everything still matters to me, which is part of it, right?
Yeah.
Like
yeah. I was a kid with big feelings, but I learned not to express them, to keep them down. My sister was a kid with big feelings. She expressed them. She couldn't keep them down or didn't want to. And it was, I mean, I watched that and was like, ooh, yeah, better to be quiet.
Right.
Much better to be quiet. And my brother is quite a bit younger than me, so he sort of, I think, took an approach that's somewhat a combination of the two. But
also, he's a boy.
And he's a boy, and the rules are different for boys.
And especially then, right?
Yep,
like it might not be so much now.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure in some places there are, but the rules back then for sure were different.
Oh, and yeah, absolutely.
My dad, to his credit, raised us to think like guys, right? What we always got from both our parents was, if you want something and you earn it yourself, nobody can ever take it away from you, right? If you want to become something, don't wait for somebody else to go with you, do it with you, approve of it.
Wow.
Right? It was like and that, I have to say, that was a big lesson, because I had a lot of girlfriends who and it was good for them, but they were like, oh, when I get married, we're going to have a nice little house with a white picket fence. And it was like, screw you, I'm buying myself a farm. Right? Like, but I also see that if you have a child that swims against this against the whatever that
current,
called, the current. I was thinking tide, and it was like, yeah, I'm going to be swept out to sea. But if you have that, I can also see why you don't have that discussion, because every dinner time would be turned into chaos. Like, and honestly, sometimes even if I said everything I think at breakfast with me and Paul, where we're making smoothies, it would make his poor head explode, because my brain keeps going, right?
I think parents hope for their kid to have an easy life. And when you have a kid with big feelings and big thoughts and big anything, that life's not going to be easy for them.
Yeah.
Right. And you kind of, I think that's a big, I know for me, having raised my kids, and I was very much like, let's talk it out, let's figure this out, let's identify this. And they've got a laundry list of things that they talk about with their therapist. So I'm not claiming any high ground here. But that little piece of it, that let's talk about things, it's so important. It's so important.
Speaking of which, your middle kid sent me, first of all, I got Abel pictures and a Christmas card, and she texted me today about the teddy bear. All of her kids are really nice humans.
They're pretty good people.
I'm especially close to Andrea, her middle child.
She comes out more.
She does come out more.
I
have more.
She's closer geographically, which helps.
Yeah. But it's very cute, because I've got to see your little grandson from birth until now he's a cheeky 2-year-old.
Oh, he sure is. 15 months, 16 months.
Oh, he seems a lot more mobile and mature.
Yeah. He's little, but he's not. His growth has been like slow, boom, like that. So yeah.
And he's a climber. Just saying.
He's a climber. I did not have climbers, and he was here until yesterday, and it took me most of last night to kind of be like, can breathe again. My sister is having she's got twin grandkids, and then her other son has 2 kids as well, 2 boys. And so she's got the twins and the oldest of the other one for the night. And they're, I want to say 6 and 3.
Your sister's
the twins are 6.
Doodle.
But they did, because the twins were fragile when they were born, so they helped out a huge amount right from when they were, all the months in the hospital, and then, coming out, they helped their son and his wife a huge amount. So they're used to helping with the twins, but that's what I say. So I told her, I said, in our family, the rule is no overnight visits with Granny and Grandpa until they're 5. And she's like, word, wish we would have done that. Too late for us, but you go with that.
But let's go back to challenge or kids with things and how you want them to. Because I've been thinking a lot, and some from social media and stuff, but like, I think about the people that are, and I'm still learning, and I think I can speak for you in this. We're still learning, but like a child coming out to you.
Oh,
right? Like whether that's, whatever that is on the spectrum of LGBTQ, all of the things. And I want to be a good ally, but I think the child, I don't there are some parents that are just assholes, and we'll be your parents if they've done that to
Yeah.
you. Just come to
Yeah.
us. But the other side is, I think the worry isn't, I don't accept you as a person. It's more like, oh my goodness, it's going to be harder for you.
That's the thing.
Right?
I think that's it.
Like,
that's it. It's you wish for your child to have an easy life, even as you know that a life of ease does not necessarily help you become the person that you're meant to be.
Yeah.
So, but you just want you want them to have not risk and challenge and harm in their life, and you know if they're going to go against the grain in any way, and you know, like I mean, we have experience with people, you know, coming out in different ways in our family. You know, like there's the sexual identity spectrum. There's the I don't believe the way everyone else believes, that spectrum. There's the my values don't align here with yours in this way. Anything that's going to take you from what is accepted,
within your world,
what is approved of in your world. If you go against the grain, there's going to be a price to pay, and you know that's going to be hard. Yeah. And that's what, as a parent, you ache for that, because
yeah,
I mean, I've experienced that for the ways in which I have deviated from what the rest of my, and I have a large family. I've got, you know, 30 cousins on, you know, both sides, and so when the mainstream is doing this and you decide to be over here, it's very lonely.
It is.
You pay a price for that.
Yeah.
But the payoff is authenticity. You get to be your real self instead of and probably lots of people are staying in that stream and being their authentic self. But the ones that have to fake it to stay in there, that's the ones that I grieve for. And I would way rather support a kid who's got purple feathers and, you know, whatever in their hair on this side and being their real self.
Yep, that's exactly.
Do that. Just do that. But find the people that's going to be there for you.
But that's just it. And seriously, like, I know there's lots of people out there, but if you're not accepted, you stinking email us and you become ours, because that's my biggest worry about the young ones. And I really admire the young people for coming out, for saying, you know, here's who I am, and this is who I love, and there is so much more going on these days about people being their authentic self, and yet we still have this gap of accepting that, and that's one of those where it's like people that are afraid to say it. And I get it, like, and you see it, and I mean, I don't know as much in Canada because the States gets more, but you see these people that are in states where it would never be accepted, right? And I'm sure we have cities and towns here, and you know, but it's one of those where it's like, oh my goodness, you get to be who you are, and you need to be who you are, and I just don't understand when somebody says, if you're being who you are, I can't love you, because honestly, you should love them more for being courageous enough to be who they are. And I don't, like, I have a really, and it doesn't mean, like, honestly, it doesn't mean that I won't get pronouns wrong, or that I won't make mistakes or do something, but in my heart, it's just like, you freaking, you do you.
Exactly.
Is exactly, it's like, you need to be who you are. And I think the more we take away the mystery and the crap around that, because honestly, all of the things that everybody are freaked out about in some very conservative areas right now go back thousands of years. People weren't straight in freaking Rome.
It's all part of humanity. It's all part of life.
Indigenous communities have had two-spirit people forever, and it's like, I think we're finally getting back to what's natural.
As soon as you learn anything about like the finest little bit about genetics, and I mean the finest little bit about it, you realize,
it's not that straightforward.
when the eggs start splitting here, stuff starts happening, and you don't necessarily, you don't know what shows up when you're born isn't necessarily what's encoded in your genes.
But that's just it.
And we don't know that.
And there's a really good, and I will find it for the blog, but there's a really good, and it's a scientist. Oh, we have people. Hang on, you can come in.
Oh, hi.
You can come in and make a cameo. Here, we're going to talk to Ray for a minute.
That's good. We're talking about you, so you might as well show up.
Yep. Yeah, we'll finish this conversation later, but we're going to introduce you to Ray. Come on, Ray. Oh, look at how nice he looks. Okay.
Oh, pop
Here.
in. Just pop
Here,
in
come in,
between.
put your
No,
head
over
in.
here. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
wanna
You're not.
say hi?
You're here for a good time, not a long time, baby.
Hi.
He's mine.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got a beer.
He
What are
does
you
have a
drinking?
beer.
Modelo
What is that?
with a lime.
Oh, a Mexican beer.
It's a
Is that Mexican beer?
beer.
Can I taste it?
Competitor
Hi,
to
oh, here comes Paul.
Corona?
So we're
competitor
all
to
gonna,
Corona,
and then we're
yes.
all gonna. Once Paul gets in, we're all gonna say Happy New Year, and then we're gonna.
Ooh, that's good. I
yeah.
like that.
Okay, you ready? Oh, and here's Paul.
There's Paul.
Hello.
Okay,
Hello.
and so we're gonna sign out now. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Shouldn't we be on the other sides?
No,
Or it looks like
No,
we're with the
it's
other
all
one.
good.
Oh.
Well, whatever.
Who cares?
Oh, you
Oh
you
my gosh.
people.
Okay, so we wish you a very, very happy New Year. And what do we want, Roxanne? We want more happy hours. Come on, you guys can say it
And
with
less
us.
And
bullshit.
less
And less
bullshit.
bullshit.
Happy New Year,
Happy
everybody.
New
Happy
Year.
New Year.